Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
And from the border of liberty and prosperity and the highway to the north, this is Safety Wars for Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. How's everybody doing there? I hope everybody is enjoying the beautiful weather. Finally, it's here in the Northeast, at least. I don't know about anywhere else. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. I have this whole thing zoomed in. It's very uncomfortable. I don't know what the deal is with the or anything else. So hold on, let me try this. Oh, if I start hitting buttons, I'm sure I'll lose everything. So we're just gonna roll. How's everybody doing? I wanted to thank Jay Allen last week for giving us a little bit of a shout out on the radio safety. Oh, it's going to be a long broadcast. From the Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM. We're going to, this was on Wednesday, so I'm going to go and I'm going to play it for you right here. So let's see what we have here.
Have you listened or watched the Safety War Show? It does stream live on the radio and on the streamer-emers that we have. So if you have not taken a listen to Jim Bolzel and what the hell he's doing every evening with Safety Wars, I would strongly encourage you to take a view or take a listen, whichever option is available for you, and take a listen to what the hell he has going on. It's definitely, it will take some deep dives and some information that you might be interested in.
Thank you very much, Jay. It means a lot to me to get recognized by someone else and out there, right? I'll take whatever I can get. And believe me, Jay Allen gives me a lot of coaching, a lot of encouragement, a lot of support here. So I want to thank him first and foremost. Today is not going to be no, we're not going to change. We're going to go into a deep dive here. I meant to go this the last couple of days that we've been broadcasting, but hasn't really worked out with that because most people, this is what you hear. Well, AM radio, right? AM radio, phase out, forward, everything else. But what I want to point out to everyone here is this. This is a big deal with the phase out of AM radio. If you think it cannot happen in the Western Hemisphere, guess again. Sweden phased out all terrestrial radio in their cars. I don't know what the status is elsewhere, but basically they phased out everything with that. I'm making sure we're on the air here with this. I don't know how it's impacting them or how their disaster sites are set up or management or emergency management is set up, but it's something that I'm concerned about. I'm very concerned about with all this. So here's what I have. Well, I know I'm being recorded here. I hope we're on all the other networks. So We, you know, it's been an ongoing issue. And AM radio, no, everybody's like, well, nobody, I don't read or listen to AM radio, so it doesn't impact me. Well, first of all, you're probably full of Guvno if you're saying that. It does impacts you in ways you don't realize. A little bit of history here. Everyone knows I'm an audiophile. Everyone knows that. I've been listening to radio my entire life. And it's still probably the most popular medium out there for reaching the mass market. People are saying, well, what about the internet? Statistics at this point do not bear that out. With certain populations, it does. But with the overall majority, not so much. Even with the 13 plus group, 13 to 24, which is a key demographic, they're still going to terrestrial radio. Nielsen ratings and everything have pointed out. That's what I've been looking up all day here. This is all this stuff. So real simple. There's been a move to phase out AM radio by something like 8 auto manufacturers because of apparent interference from electric cars. I used to have a truck that had a lot of interference with electrical stuff. I couldn't listen to AM radio unless the truck was shut off. We got the radio replaced, was covered by a warranty, and guess what? It was great. But so electrical interference on AM radio is not anything new. It's been well documented, well experienced, and everything else. So I get it. Electric cars, there's interference with it. Is there a technological answer to it? I'm told, yeah, there is with that. But again, it always comes down to cost. And, this issue with electric cars and radio, AM radio, always was a question for me from square one. We know this. There's one spot on Route and 109. You want to talk about interference? Route 109 in Linden, New Jersey, where 77 AM and 710 WOR on the AM dial switch right across from the Bayway Refinery between BJ's, the Exxon station, and the Bayway Refinery. It switches. Probably not a unique thing. Probably not unique at all. Probably a lot of other areas where that happens too across the country. That's what I'm familiar with in our neighborhood. But I digress. So I've had an ongoing love affair with radio as long as I can remember. I lament the phase out. Eventually, this is going to be phased out, I fear. Hopefully not in my lifetime. But things appear to be moving, that's what we're told, to streaming platforms, like what we're on now. I can't complain about streaming platforms because that's how I'm communicating with you now. This is where something like 28% of the people in the United States get their information is from streaming platforms, one for another, entertainment and everything else. But radio is still 3/4 of the market out there for this type of program. So that again, here are some other statistics. So you talk about Ford, and that was the big one, but it's others, something like 7 other ones. Ford, phasing out AM radios, 20% of all AM radio listeners are Ford owners. 23% of GM owners are AM radio listeners. So that's 1/5 of your customer base. You're just going to say, well, you don't need to do that. We'll do streaming. There are problems with streaming. And what's crazy is, so you're looking at 40% potentially, or thereabouts, are Ford or Chevy or Ford and GM product listeners, right? And we've talk about loyalty to brand, Ford, Chevy. I tell you what, I go all over the country and people are very passionate about the brand of autos out there, and those are probably two of the worst perpetrators. That when I was growing up, it's either your Ford trucks buyer, your Chevy buyer, or GMC, and Chrysler was an afterthought. That was a imitation. They're all good products. I've owned them all, by the way. The connection between cars and radios is really important, even today. Was before the internet, still today. Some statistics are putting 4 hours per week is being listened to on radio in a car for those older than 13 years old. So, again, the average person that's regularly in a car, 4 hours a week of radio, whether it's AM, FM, or what have you. That's what it's going down to. Here's another point for you. Up until the mid 1990s, some brands of cars still offered only AM radios as standard equipment. FM was optional. So my 1994 Chevy pickup, I had to pay $300 more for AM radio. So it's here. It's ubiquitous. Everybody uses it. We're going to talk about disasters later on. AM radio has some advantages over FM radio. AM radio has a longer range than FM radio. That's probably the most important advantage of that. AM radios, a little bit of science review here, bounce off of the ionosphere. AM radio has a much larger range than FM because of that. So FM radio signals go essentially from line of sight only to the horizon. That's why they're so high, these radio antennas. FM has some advantages, seem trivial, but they are important for a lot of people. One of them is improved fidelity for the sound. You listen to an AM music station, there are them in the Northeast, not very popular, but they're out there. WRCR is our local one right over here in broadcast out of Pomona, New York, not New Jersey. I know I have Stockton or Richard Stockton College of New Jersey listeners out there. No, I'm not talking about Pomona, New Jersey. I'm talking about Pomona, New York. Lake Fred Radio, 91.7 out of Pomona, New Jersey. But right here, you listen to that compared to FM stations, big difference in radio quality and as far as fidelity, how it sounds and everything else. As a matter of fact, Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr were saying they were used to listening to AM radio so much to their music that when they listened to it on FM or even when they digitally remastered everything onto CDs, there's stuff in there that they forgot that they put in. Little bells, little whistles, little notes, and everything else. So, no, fidelity is better. Lack of interference from weather events. So, if you think electric cars interfere with AM radio, you can hear lightning strikes on AM radio. That's the most common one. Sunspot activities, things of that nature. From an FCC or Federal Communications Commission perspective, FM stations are well defined geographically, and there is a low chance of there being interference from other radio stations. So, for example, this is not the case today, but I was working a job in Kentucky in 1995, 1996, that time frame. There was a local AM radio station that's now WCGW. I don't recall what it was back then, but they broadcast on 77 AM during the day up till like 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, they shut down. What ended up happening was once they shut down at 5 o'clock, I was able to get WABC out of New York City. This is 800 miles away. Take note. 800 miles away. I was able to get 77 AM out of New York, crystal clear. Better than what I got in Central Jersey, by the way. So, in New York State, big issue. 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. A lot of hobby radio stations. Now we call them low power radio stations. For example, you have a Christmas light display. That's one that's common. You have a radio station. People can have a low powered radio station broadcasting Christmas music, and it goes like 100 foot off the property. You don't get interference with anything else, any other radio stations that are licensed or anything else. And New York City, I was reading that and I read this a long time ago, not just today, there were issues in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s where people would set up a radio station for their building, in the high rises, for their block, for their neighborhood. And people got PO'd because the licensed radio stations, they were getting overdriven and everything. They were losing revenue. They were violating their license. That's why we assign property rights to this stuff. And that's highly regulated. Even today, there was a story I heard from somebody who their permit, the FCC had a typo in their permit for a local emergency response group. And this was a tow truck company that had an FCC license, broadcast from on a UHF band for a handheld radio and for base stations for their tow truck service up in upstate New York. Cell phone service, really spotty, but the UHF worked pretty good. So they were broadcasting, and the FCC issued a license to the police for a new radio setup, and it had a misprint on there, a typo. And before you know it, there was a SWAT team at his front door demanding that he shut down his operations because they were going to arrest him for violating this thing on the state level. So it was very important. They got everything sorted out later on, and not too many people, I wish I could say they were laughing about it. They weren't really laughing about it. So really important here with bands and everything. So AM, because of this whole thing with the power of the station, they may have a little bit of overlap of stations and things of that nature. So let's talk about disasters, because that's been the big thing in Congress as of late with some of the laws that are proposed. We'll go into those in a minute. They're saying, well, disaster response is relying on AM radio. And I said, man, that doesn't seem to make sense, but let me look that up. One of the things is I recommend everyone dealing with disaster preparation, whether a facility, a house, or anything else, car, you have an AM FM radio, a portable one, right? And if you can, a shortwave receiver and weather band receiver on them. Right now, I have a police fan radio right here. And I have to find out. The technology has changed a little bit. But you have to find out what the frequencies your people are on, what you're interested in. And even if it's legal, because I tell you what, you get pulled over in some jurisdictions with a police scanner, you're going to have a problem in your car because they think, you're evading the police and things of that nature. But anyway, yeah, this is what a basic disaster preparation is to have an AM FM radio, whether it's a small one, like what we used to call transistor radios, or maybe some of the larger ones. Right? So, to eliminate terrestrial radio is an actual public emergency situation. It's bad. Let's talk about two emergencies and the situation we have here where I live in Rockland County. Where you live, it's probably the same. The first one is on 9/11. On 9/11, when the Twin Towers came down, several radio and TV stations were knocked off the air. Completely off the air. Some of the stations had a backup, some did not, because their stuff was on the Twin Towers. Radio, again, portable, right? We could carry it around. So we're going to watch it on TV. I watched most of it on TV of that day. But guess what? Radio is portable. You're not going to be carrying around a TV. Now, the second one is Superstorm Sandy, 2012. Same deal. We were out without power in my neighborhood from 10 to 14 days. Some area in northern New Jersey and rural New York had it worse than us. They were out for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Even today, during winter storms, some nasty storms other times of the year, areas could be without power. We had no internet access in 2012 with Superstorm Sandy. We did not have internet access. The only thing that we had no phone. The only thing we had was the voice over internet protocol in my Subaru. The 3G network, I was able to make access the internet pretty well, not really well, but okay. And we were able to make phone calls on that. Again, that was spotty because everybody went on into their, like today, we have, everybody jumping on at one time and everything gets flooded. No, in the airwaves, you can't get access. So you would think that things have improved. So let's remember this. No power. Most people were without generators during Sandy in this area. Some people had a legitimate thing. They couldn't afford them. They didn't have the know-how. They didn't know how to start a generator, anything like that. So no power. That meant no computers, no internet access, no phones. You needed terrestrial radio. That's all that was available, especially the AM radio. We'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes here because this is pretty important here with this to understand. Wi-Fi or cellular service. Well, we have that today. Well, this is what happens. What happens when the cellular tower goes down? Today, what do we have? This happened this afternoon. The kids all get home from school. Everybody goes on the internet to do their homework or to play video games or to do whatever. And we don't have good internet connections from like 2 or 3 o'clock to like 5 o'clock. I try to record some of this stuff and upload it. Some days I can't do it because we don't have an internet service. By the way, we got the fastest internet service. I'm not going to mention the company available. And we have 2 dedicated lines in our household. One for this program, one for my wife's job. So we have 2 dedicated lines separate. We still do not have enough bandwidth between 2 and 5 p.m. That's when everybody's getting home. The last week, we had 2 days where in the middle of the night, internet service went down for my entire area. So it's not reliable. You need all of this equipment. You need a computer, you need a modem, you need internet, all of that stuff. This is where radio fills the void here. Radio, you need one thing, the radio. Turn it on, and you need someone sending you a signal and information. A lot less could go wrong with that. Terrestrial radio, right? Reliable. Nothing much going on there. How about the next one? Hey, Jim, why don't we use FM radio? Let's talk about radio FM. Here in Rockland County, New York, where I'm from, and it's not much different than anywhere else, we have 18 radio stations on AM. We have 22 FM radio stations, right? All in the New York metro area that are available. Some of the stations are hyper local, like WRCR AM 1700. AM radio, and I did it. I went out, I got the list. AM radio is geared, here's the list. You don't believe me. AM radio is geared towards news and talk. So I have an inventory here. Here we go. 18 stations in AM. We have 2 sports stations, 3 news talk, 1 public radio station, 2 news stations, an ethnic station, a business news station, 1 pure talk radio station, classic hits, and an adult contemporary station. That's what we have. Comes out to 18, and we have 5 religious ones on a. They're all talk. They're related to talk. One of those stations also broadcasts on the FM band, 1010 WINS, out of New York. Took over K-Rock 92.3. People are pissed. People are still pissed over it. But anyway, they recently took over. FM has 22 radio stations here in the metro New York area, Rockland County. That's 1 news station on there and 1 public broadcasting station on there. That's what they have that are available here in Rockland County. So you're going to say, well, this sounds like a conspiracy theory, right? Blah, blah, blah. All that. Well, why am I bringing it up? So the issue is, can the FM stations pivot and go to emergency broadcasting? Everyone thinks it's easy here, doing broadcasting. I never thought it was easy, but I didn't know what it entailed until I started doing this program. I'm not like Jay Allen, the safety mystic on Rated R Safety Show, heard on the Safety FM network daily, 7 a.m. Eastern time. They been in this pretty much his entire life. Becomes a natural. A lot of these broadcasters and hosts are naturals. If you're going to be going top 40 radio, and we're going to hear from the next rotation, Tears for Fears this song came out, 1993, and you hear shout, let it all out, blah, 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 blah. All right. It's kind of hard to pivot from that to, we're going to switch on over to a local disaster story now. And then they go into the disaster. You're not going to have the expertise. They're not going to be. Can they pivot? Some will, some won't. However, you go to a news station. They're used to covering this stuff all the time. They're used to doing this all the time. With that, what do we have? The government has the emergency alert system, which is the Cold War successor to the emergency broadcast system, started in 1997. So I was able to go. I got this document, Power Outage Incident Annex to Response and Recovery Federal Interagency Operational Plans. This is the government, their documents here. And I'm going to read from this document. I know nobody wants to hear Jim read all the time. Well, guess what? This one we're going to read. And by the way, we have this here is right from Homeland Security in June 2017. This has not been updated. And this gives you a whole bunch of information. Since communications systems rely on electricity, any incident that causes long-term power outages will create a challenging environment for telecommunications and public messaging. Situational awareness will be difficult to obtain, and any information may change frequently before an incident stabilizes. We found this out with the East Palestine, Ohio situation and the railway disaster. So, frequently, right. This will complicate efforts to deploy and employ resources effectively. Local impacts will vary widely based on cascading impacts, CI, the level and quality of local preparedness efforts, and the availability of capabilities of local, state, tribal, territorial, and insular area resources. Impacts that result from a long-duration power outage will vary depending on the incident. An incident that results in physical damage to electrical power infrastructure, like an earthquake, will also likely damage or destroy telecommunications infrastructure and require extended federal communications support. Incidents that may not result in physical damage to communications infrastructure, like space weather, may require non-traditional response and recovery strategies, going on and on and on and on, when things last for a specific long-term thing. And it goes on. Well, this is where it is, public messaging. This means broadcast, right? During a long-term power outage, public messaging informs all affected segments of society by providing credible messaging to expedite the delivery of emergency services and aid the public in taking protective actions. This is what I mean with a pivot. AM radio, more equipped. These stations are more equipped to go into information versus top 40 radio. And this is in general, not specific. You're going to get some people with all different things. I'll probably get people complaining all the time, but they're set up. They have the contacts for news, for credibility. Do you want to have somebody freaking out? Oh no, screaming. No, you know what? You have people who are calm, collected, everything else. A long-term power outage brings unique challenges for communications between government officials and the public, since traditional public information and warning mechanisms rely on electricity. Communication through television, radio, remember this is 2017, email, and social media may not be possible for the majority of the public. I'm going to add reliable based on our COVID experience. May not be possible for the majority of the public if no electricity is available to power the apparatuses used to transmit and receive this information. So you don't have power, you don't have any of this stuff. But there's more here. And in an incident that does result in significant infrastructure, some methods of communications will immediately following an incident then degrade over time. In these cases, it is estimated that following a power loss, there will be a 4, right? You disaster preparation people, 4 to 8 hour window in which dissemination of information, the emergency alert system, and the integrated public alert warning system, IPAWS, will be most effective. 4 to 8 hour window. After that window, communication abilities are expected to degrade due to the loss of battery power on devices such as radios and mobile phones. A typical smart device, and this hasn't changed, but it's gotten a little bit better. A typical smart device may hold, let me lower this, may hold for a 4 to 8 hour window in which dissemination of information through IPAWS will be most effective. It's 4 to 8 hours. After that window, communication ability. Okay, we said that. A typical smart device may hold a battery charge for 5 to 8 hours, though methods of recharge may be available. Car batteries, inverters, solar chargers, hand crank devices. The rate of failure will depend heavily on local preparedness. Cellular towers, for example, may have backups or a generator backup system that could maintain power for a few hours to a few days. Now, here's the clincher here. The National Public Warning System, operated by IPAWS, which we just mentioned, to provide a resilient information broadcasting provides a nationwide all-hazards warning capability for the president in the event of national catastrophic disaster. Let's repeat this. IPAWS provides a nationwide all-hazards warning capability for the president. The core of the National Public Warning System is comprised of privately owned commercial and non-commercial radio broadcast stations that cooperatively participate with FEMA to provide a resilient information broadcasting capability. This is where it all comes down to, guys and gals. With all this, phasing out AM radio will impact this existing system. There are 77 stations nationwide that the government uses with backups and everything else that are can reach 90% of the nation's population. 77 stations. FEMA installed power and other resiliency features at these stations sustains the capability to support the system, the mission. Stations outside the NPWS will need to request any resources through their state emergency management channels for local broadcasting needs. Based on what we just went through with COVID, I ain't too confident that they're prepared. That's why it's important for you to prepare. So I did a little bit of a dive here. Where are my notes? Here. Give me a second here. We have, and of course, the notes disappear. Let's go on. It's right here in the document. I'm just going to get the document and open it up. Give me a second here. I hate it when I do that sort of thing. But This is FEMA incident outage for power. We're going to go over to page 97 in the document. Hold on. Sorry, folks. Bear with me a second. I had this all worked out. So in this document, they list all the stations as of 2017. This has not been updated. So I am in Region 2. We have one station in Syracuse, one in Rochester, one in New York City. That's WABC out of New York City, Endicott, and in Albany. All of these are AM stations. Some of them broadcast on AM and FM frequencies. So what's the moral of the story here with this? All right. When you have 77 stations, here we are, right in front of me. So we have primary entry point radio stations here in New York, in Region 2, I should say, which is New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stations. We have 6 a.m. and 3 FM. 6 a.m., long-term, long range. 3 FM. This is what the government's relying on is the AM radio stations. Local with FM, again, spotty coverage with the way things are to the horizon. AM, much further range. Well, can you get other stations? Yeah. Shortwave and everything else. This all goes into this. Why it's so important to have AM radio out there. Think about it. You're going to say, well, AM radio could be phased out. Well, not really. Because, again, this is what the emergency broadcast, the emergency alert system is relying on. Not a conspiracy theory. This is all right here in this document, right here. Right? So we get back to what the original question is in the running theme for all these programs on Safety FM. It's the number one question that I start out every safety training class with. What is safety? If you're in the behavior-based safety world, it's no accidents, no incidents, no injuries. And again, Scott Geller isn't going to say, well, that's what it is, but that's what it's evolved into. The human and organizational performance world, what do we talk about? Resiliency, that means the ability to adapt, and capacity. Two things. Does the internet have a role to play? Streaming services have a role to play in disaster communication, disaster preparation? Yeah, obviously. But why would you cut out and make unavailable all this stuff? I think I'm going to probably talk about this again here in the very near future. Why would we do this? Why would we cut off our capacity, make things less safe, less prepared? Rely on technology that, hey, you watch this program, technology that is not reliable. AM radio, very well understood. FM radio, very well understood. Infrastructure has been in place since the 1920s for AM radio. 1930s, FM radio came into being, and then in the 60s, it really took off. Right, FM radio was invented in the 30s, and in the 60s, really took off. Why would you get rid of it? So what can you do? Again, we're not really supposed to get into politics here, but I do. I do. I'm a political animal. We all know that. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are pushing, this is from Associated Press from last week. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are pushing to keep AM radio in the nation's cars. A bipartisan group in Congress has introduced AM for Every Vehicle Act. The bill calls on the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to require automakers to keep AM radio in new cars at no additional cost. And it's flipped. FM radio used to be optional, now AM radio, right? There. The legislation would also require automakers selling cars manufactured before the proposed regulation takes effect to let buyers know if the vehicles do not come with AM radios. Supporters of preserving AM radio in cars cite public safety concerns. We just outlined them. This is what I don't like about the AP sometimes and all these other things. Straits Times will probably tell you this out of Singapore. The safety concerns are as follows. One, our entire emergency alert system is AM based with very few, right? 77 radio stations primarily. Those are the primary ones. With 3 FM stations in the Region 2 area. That includes Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. And 6 AM stations. That's it. Again, that's what the primary things are. Maybe we change it. I don't know. I don't think you're going to change it the other way easily. The sponsors of the bill put forth Wednesday, that a couple of Wednesdays ago, note AM radio's historic role in transmitting vital information during emergencies, such as communicating during natural disasters, especially to people in rural areas. Car makers shouldn't tune out AM radio in new vehicles or put it behind a costly digital paywall. That's the other advantage of AM radio and all radio. It's free. You just get the radio and you listen to it. You don't have to worry about paywall. Can you imagine? There's an emergency in the area. Let me go to my online service and let me see what I can get. I'm assuming you can have access to it. Credit card, not valid. Our payment system is down. So what do? You got to, again, there is an answer to that. You got to build up a community in your local neighborhood in disasters. He added that the bill, this is Senator Markey, he added that the bill aims to ensure this resilient and popular communication tool does not become a relic of the past. So here's what are we going to do? What are you going to do about it? I can't control what they do in Washington, what they do in Albany, what they do in Trenton, or any of the other state capitals and local jurisdictions. I can't. One man, right? The whole thing that one man can't make a difference, but one man can communicate the message that will make the difference. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? How are you going to plan for communication systems? Whether, right, walkie-talkie, shortwave, what are you going to do? That's one question. Is your family going to be okay without TV, radio, internet, and other things? During Sandy, and this has only gotten worse, people were going stir crazy over internet and TV withdrawals. Me, I was happy because I still had talk radio. I loved it in a way because I was like, suckers, in a way. Sorry for all the loss of life and damage, but, I was like, look. No, Jim, what radio station are you listening? That's what I heard, right? So, radio has certain advantages over satellite and the internet. AM has certain advantages over FM. Longer range. Government relies on it. Roughly, right? We'll go into this. As far as radios, I wanted to talk about them. Hey, you can figure it out. A good transistor radio today is about $25. A couple of years ago, we had my Aunt Sophie was having a very rough time with some health issues and everything. She is an aunt at the Felician Convent at the Felician University in Lodi, New Jersey, Lodi, New Jersey. And she did not have TV available for her. So what does she listen to? Radio. Her radio broke. So I got her a brand new radio, AM, FM radio, analog, nothing digital. So she knew how to operate it. She's 87 right now. So it was nice and easy for her. I paid about $85 was the name brand radio. It was really nice. Now all the other nuns gather around her radio to listen to it. It's great. Some other statistics I didn't go into, right? 82 million people each month in the United States listen to AM and FM radio. Right? A lot of stuff. I have a lot of information here, hard to convey it. What does this come down to? Why are we phasing out something like this? I say we support it more. It's ubiquitous. Everybody listens to it. And I mean, it's a show. Everyone listens to it. It's easy to operate, especially in a car. Do you really want people to be on their cell phone getting the stream together for this? I don't know. So that's all I'm going to say on this. We did a little bit of deep dive here on radio with this. I'm going to move along. I'm going to throw on a commercial, and I'm going to set up for some news or talk about some news. And hold on.
In the professional safety community, communication and planning are just a few keys to your program's success. The question many practitioners have is, where do I start? Dr. Jay Allen, the creator of the Safety FM platform and host of the Rated R Safety Show, has built a global foundation to help you along the way. Go to safetyfm.com and listen to some of the industry's best and most involved professionals, including Blaine Hoffman with the Safety Pro, Sam Goodman with the Hop Nerd, Sheldon Primus with the Safety Consultant, Jim Pozell with Safety Wars, Emily Elrod with Unapologetically Bold, and many others. As individuals, we can do great things, but as a team, we become amazing. Dial into safetyfm.com today and surround yourself with a powerful force of knowledge and support.
OSHA recordables, catastrophic losses, environmental disasters. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Pozell with Safety Wars.
That's my daddy.
So here we have some reports out here on regular news. Well, some of our other threats. Here we have one. National Assessment of Educational Progress, also known as the Nation's Report Card, reports only 13% of 8th grade students earn a proficient score in U.S. history. In civics, only 20% of this cohort performed at proficient levels. Compared to what tests were in the late 1800s, I don't think too many people will be able to pass them, other than if you're an attorney or something on civics. So, again, what makes a culture? I had a professor at college, William James was his name. I don't know if he's still alive. I took a class with him called Black Power. He said, if you want to destroy a nation, that was the name of the course, Black Power. How I got into it was another story. You want to destroy a nation? Destroy its history. Here we have history people not getting it, not being exciting. I have a feeling that if me or Jay Allen were teaching it, we could make it pretty exciting. But anyway, again, why is that? Kind of disheartening there. Texas lawmakers pass a bill allowing removal of rogue prosecutors who failed to enforce laws. The Texas legislature passed a bill on May 28th that could pave the way for locally elected prosecutors to be removed from office for misconduct if they fail to enforce certain laws. House Bill 17 was introduced by Republican State Senator Joan Huffman earlier this year and passed the Senate Sunday in a vote 22-11 after passing both legislative houses in April. Now heads to Governor Greg Abbott's desk to be signed into law. Under legislation, Texas residents who have lived in the county for at least 6 months may file a petition against a prosecuting attorney accusing them of misconduct if the top local prosecutor fails to prosecute a class or type of criminal offense under state law, or if they instruct law enforcement to refuse to arrest individuals suspected of committing a class or type of offense under state law. So this, I think, is part of a national movement here. I know in New York, this is an issue. Why aren't they prosecuting certain people? certain crimes. So, for example, last year, I believe it was, we had an assassination attempt against a candidate for governor, Lee Zeldin, that wasn't that they let the person out the next day, and that caused quite an uproar here with this. The feds came and arrested him, looking for him the next day. They couldn't find him because he was also a seated congressman. And I tell you what, if you're an elected official, you get attacked, you're going to have a federal investigation. Unfortunately, I know that. I had a dear friend, Robert Lustek, who some of our listeners may remember because we all knew him, that was killed in an automobile accident that was a little bit suspicious. Guess what? Feds investigated. So anytime that a elected official has a problem, feds investigate. So what do we do if the local prosecutors are not obeying the law when it comes down to it? There's a lot of stuff that doesn't get prosecuted, probably because of lack of evidence. There's a legitimate reason, but let's say that it's a little bit fishy. This is Texas's way of handling it. The problem is you keep on getting away from sovereign immunity with this stuff. And I always question. I did with James Taylor from the Heartland Institute, the president. We got to be careful with he was on our show. We have to be careful if we get rid of sovereign immunity, and then no one's going to want to run for office or be police officers. So here we have tech industry leaders, scientists, and professors issued a new warning with regard to the risks associated with artificial intelligence. That's been a theme here. Mitigating the risk and this is an article from Fox Business. Mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. They're talking Terminator level stuff. The statement said that while experts in the field, policymakers and journalists, and the public are increasingly discussing risks from technology, it can be difficult to voice concerns about some of the advanced AI severe risks. The succinct statement below aims to overcome this obstacle and open up discussion. It is also meant to create common knowledge from the growing number of experts and public figures who also take some of advanced AI's most severe risks seriously, the webpage said. Going through here, let's see here. I have a picture here, right? This is from Making Money host Charles Payne discusses AI optimism, and right, Dollar Tree is cutting profit forecasts on slowing demand and the state of the consumer. This came off as a headline. Maybe Dollar Tree, they would have better profits if they didn't have like $21 million in proposed OSHA citations. I don't know. Maybe that would be good. Maybe it's a leading indicator of some other stuff going on there. That's one man's safety professional's opinion here, where usually if safety is GUVNO at your company, everything else is GUVNO too. Just the way it is. You can look up what GUVNO is. Americans owe $1 trillion in credit card debt. This is from The Hill. Highest rates on credit cards since the 1980s when Reagan was president. How's that ending? You're paying for your yesterdays today. You can't move forward. That's a problem. Massive amounts of seaweed washing ashore in Florida contains flesh-eating bacteria that can cause a leaky gut syndrome. Called Sargassum, the seaweed blankets beaches, pardon me, I got the hiccups, with its thick brown algae emitting a strong odor as it decomposes. So that's a issue here with this bacteria. It's causing what scientists are calling a pathogen storm. Let's check on our time here with this. Where are we? Hold on, everybody. Okay, doesn't refresh on here. We got 2 minutes left. I want to thank everybody. Thanks for bearing with me here with the deep dive into radio. but it makes a difference. We're going to be going off the air very shortly with safetyfm.com, where you can hear us. We try to do 3 to 5 programs a week here from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. That doesn't always happen. So I want to thank everybody for going out there. Give us a call for all your health and safety needs at 845-269-5772. And we will see you tomorrow, God willing. And outro, wrong button.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.
Stay tuned on the video platforms. We're going to continue with some news. And we are back here. We're going to go through here. There's some other news stories I wanted to get through here on what we have. We're pulling them up here. I hope you're enjoying the program. I hate to be, now carrying stories over. It's a little bit annoying till tomorrow because God knows what tomorrow will bring us. Here we have from Region 6, OSHA news release. The U.S. Department of Labor finds fire, electrical, and other hazards in inspections on 2 Southeast Oklahoma Dollar General. We just talked about them. Stores putting workers at risk. National Retailer has been assessed more than $21 million in proposed penalties since 2017. When Florida workplace safety investigators opened inspections in December 2022 at 2 Dollar General stores in southeast Oklahoma, they found blocked exit routes and walkways exposing employees to fire hazards. The same types of violations investigators discovered in stores across the nation operated by the national discount retailer. OSHA issued Dollar General Corporation citations for 2 repeat and 3 serious violations and proposed penalties of $267,622. It's all the same every time. Again, last week, it's over $21 million since 2017. I don't know how they're managing this. Probably need to reach out to them. Okay, here's our next one. Is it rocket science? Nothing is more frustrating than your weather app telling you it's going to be sunny and gorgeous outside for only to start raining 2 hours later. Meteorologists do their best to predict weather trends and patterns, but there's always room for error. However, researchers in Texas say data collected from NASA could help improve these sometimes unreliable weather predictions. Okay, so the University of Texas in Arlington secured a NASA grant to use data on ocean circulation, atmospheric conditions, and current weather information to make longer-range forecasting reliable. That's good. They're using NASA data with this. What are the long-term, here's a funny one. What are the long-term effects of quitting social media? We don't know because almost nobody can log off long enough to find out. This is from Study Finds by The Conversation. So, yeah, we could, no. What are the effects? Well, we don't know. Not too many people can do it. Again, if I were not doing this program, I'd probably be off social media right now. I'm getting more in, and my kids and my wife and other people are getting more involved in doing, rather than social media, having a text mail group, text message group. What are they? I don't know what they call them. People call them different things. Going old school here, because I tell you what, people don't want to get thrown off of social media for what the filters consider offensive. So, for example, my show here was labeled pornography on YouTube, not on Facebook. I was like, really? Safety pornography? I don't think so. Sick workers are tied, and this is from local10.com. I don't know where this is. It was an Associated Press story from today. Sick workers are tied to 40% of restaurant food poisoning outbreaks, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Food workers who, hey, I tell you what, CDC does a great job with this type of research. Food workers who showed up while sick or contagious were linked to about 40% of restaurant food poisoning outbreaks, with a known cause between 2017 and 2019, federal health officials said Tuesday. Norovirus and salmonella germs, or salmonella, in New Jersey is salmonella, germs that cause severe illnesses were the most common cause of 800 outbreaks, which encompass 875 restaurants and were reported by 25 state and local health departments. Investigators with the CDC called for better enforcement of comprehensive food safety policies, which emphasize basic measures like hand washing and keeping sick workers off the job. Okay, although 85% of restaurants said they had policies restricting staff from working while sick, only about 16% of the policies were detailed enough to require workers to notify managers and to stay home if they had any of the 5 key symptoms: vomiting, diarrhea, sore throat with fever. That's only 3 of them. 5 key symptoms, they list 3 of them. What the hell? Right? So they have policies and they don't enforce. Sounds like the COVID policies. This was a story today that was that this past weekend for Memorial Day traveling was the busiest ever since COVID. 2.7 million people traveled on Friday. Unfortunately, they were all on the New York Thruway. That's a joke. I know. Well, you didn't hit too much traffic this year. And that's what we have here. I mean, we have a lot of news out there, but I don't like to leave news hanging here. I like to go through all the stuff. So I want to tell everybody, I appreciate everybody listening. I appreciate everything that's going on out there. With your safety world, you need a safety consultant, give us a call. We're going to do a deeper dive this week, probably on, there was a controversial study on first aid CPR, on specifically CPR in the news, and how some controversy behind it. And since I'm a trainer for first aid CPR, you can give us a call. I'm going to integrate that into some of the training with that, with workplace first aid CPR. Some controversy came out. So for Safety Wars, this is Jim Polzel. I hope to be back here tomorrow. And thank you for joining us on all of our online platforms. I hope everything was useful for you. I hope to be putting in some other programs, and we're working on some more commercials and programs. That's what I'm going to do right after this. So for Safety Wars, this is Jim Polzel.